Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Metaworld News, our weekly news from immersive collaborative spaces, virtual worlds as we call them, the metaverse in grand description. We look at the inhabited social virtual worlds and also the technology behind interfacing with them if appropriate. And that's about it. This is the highlights for the week ending 29th of April. I'm Mal Bones, and I'm joined by James Outloud. And between the two of us, we probably offer you a little bit of opinion as we go as well. You can follow me at twitter.com/malburns, MALBURNS, or one word. And I post links there to news items throughout the week. That's actually a general feed. There's also another feed, twitter.com/Metaworld News, which is more social worlds news attached to this program. And that you should, if you miss any of the links I read out on the program, that's where you will probably find the links to the highlights I've chosen this week. So without further ado, I'm going to move into stuff that came in at about the time this program closed last week. A company called Full Sail, well, they're not really a company, they probably are actually, but Full Sail University. They're an American university based in Florida. I imagine they are a corporate entity, as well as being an educational one. They're collaborating with another actual company called, unbelievable names we've got here, Doghead Simulations. A university and something called Doghead Simulations just doesn't sound right, but never mind. They're collaborating together on a virtual classroom app, basically Full Sail taps VR to help online students feel less isolated. The app is called Rumi, or Rummy, or something like that. I better spell it. It's RUM, then II. So there's a double I on the end of it. So I have no idea how you actually meant to pronounce that. And at its core, it's a teleconferencing suite. But the twist is native to VR and gives meeting participants a customizable avatar and meeting space. Anyway, you can you could, sorry, for a couple of anecdotes I was going to say there, but I'm not going to. You can find that on the feed, or also at engadget.com. That's engadget.com. And I also mentioned, I'm pretty sure I mentioned last week, but you can also find at digitaltrends.com an article on a new file format called JPEG XS. Despite the name, which is JPEG, we tend to think of as photo compression. This is actually for streaming and VR as well. And it's going to be a faster format designed for 8K streaming, better VR, and safer drones. Yes, it goes way beyond video. They want to make your drones safe to fly. Right. And oh dear. I think I just clicked a button too early. Where's my headlines gone? There we are. Right. It's, yeah. Oh, boy. Yes, I hit that way too early. Okay. Article at medium.com written by somebody called Audrey Tang. Virtual reality for civic deliberation. The author is saying she's happy to be here virtually to talk about the work I've been doing throughout the year using virtual reality for civic deliberation, listening to people and stuff like that. So interesting sort of overview, case overview, should we say, for virtual reality. Gaming is just the beginning. Here's 8 innovative ways VR is being used today. That's another post about a week ago at digitaltrends.com, overview post. And uploadvr.com had a report early in the week about the horror of the Hiroshima atomic bomb being presented in virtual reality. And Well, I will open it quickly, and I hope that I don't get confused. I believe this is a kind of standalone app, and I think it was presented at the right. Well, my machine doesn't want to. Oh, yes, it has opened it. Okay. Day the World Changed. Here we are. Yeah, it was actually shown last week at the Tribeca Film Festival in New York. And the app is called The Day the World Changed. Basically, it endeavors to put you in um, in the experience of having an atomic bomb land on you in the Second World War. And Nagasaki too.
Hmm.
I guess the advantage here is that you will actually survive unless something seriously goes wrong with your
Right,
headset.
right.
Not by all accounts a very pleasant experience, but one that they felt the need to make it because the distance in time between the impact of atomic bomb use and now is such that they don't feel people are quite so aware anymore of
Yeah,
just how devastating such weapons are.
that's very profound. Wow.
Yeah. So basically, you're going to get nuked for the sake of your education. I think that's the best way to put it, isn't it? Anyway, I shouldn't even laugh at that because it's not funny, but you can check out Upload VR or oneword.com for more information about that. Right, engadget.com, ENGADGET, same as a few minutes ago for another link. Touch sensitive wall might let you control home devices in the future. This is quite interesting. It's more to do with the smart home and things like that, but they're coming up with the idea of putting sensors well, the prototype is called Wall Plus Plus. As in C++, if you know what that is. And basically, the idea is the wall itself will be able to sense gestures and then put, augmented reality windows and stuff against the wall. So you just basically move your hand against the wall. The AR system will put screens against the wall for you to fiddle with or read or watch or whatever. But as with many of these things, I immediately thought, well, if it's good for, the what's the name of that movie? Where the stars are all touching screens in thin air.
Oh,
If it's
is that Minority Report?
yeah, Minority Report.
Yeah.
Thank you, James.
Yep.
Yes. Me and my memory these days. If it's good enough for that kind of interfacing, then I can easily see how it would be used in virtual reality too. Just as we have, people trying to prototype virtual environments, which are really desktops, and then within those, you've got augmented reality experiences and things. So it will come together as one thing one day, somehow, somewhen, hopefully not owned by Facebook or Microsoft. Right. Yes, Fido. I concur. We really don't want those people taking over our virtuality, do we? Right. This fitness suit turns a new VR game into an intense workout. Well, this is another post from uploadvr.com. And it's about an upcoming fitness experience which is set to work with an electrical muscle stimulation called EMS in a suit to turn your gaming VR sessions into heart-pounding workouts. I guess the idea is if you have room scale VR and all that sort of stuff, and you're in a helmet banging into walls and stuff, it might be more healthy if you were doing physical exercises instead. So apparently the suit will, you probably still need the goggles. I think you need the goggles, but you have a fitness suit and it will inspire you to do actual things that are actually good for your body. Arguably, this is kind of going to be the what is it? The grand rescue of gamers worldwide who currently sit in chairs getting more and more obese. Well, now virtual reality is going to make them stand up and get healthy. Yeah, maybe there is a good side to this headset after all. Okay, so I read about that at upload vr.what's-it.com. Right, back a page. Okay, couple of days ago here. Right, Apple's head-mounted display research continues with a new eye tracking patent. Everything Apple is supposedly doing is simply mock-ups. The pictures we see are artist concepts, and despite Apple logos everywhere, you can be pretty sure the artist involved does not work for Apple. So nothing to show here, except that an eye tracking patent that was published a few days ago has been granted to Apple. And it's also pointed out that Apple reportedly acquired a leading eye tracking company called SMI very recently too. So whatever they're working on involves new eye tracking technology. It's also said that there's unlikely to be anything. Apple themselves have said there's going to be nothing on that front coming from them until at least the year 2020. So I think this is pretty long-term strategy here. Right, World Engine Neos VR launches in beta on May the 4th. May the 4th being, 4 or 5 days away from now. The post is at uploadvr.com. One of VR's most ambitious and longest gestating projects is heading towards a beta launch on May the 4th. Its creator is looking for supporters on Steam and Patreon. I will just open this to give you a bit more. I think I had a post a week or so ago about the same company, but I'll open it anyway. Yes, this is fairly comprehensive. Nice pictures, I'll give it that. Neos VR is a project from somebody whose name I can't pronounce, and they're a co-founder. It's been developed for several years. It's a collection of tools to let people intuitively create dynamic virtual worlds whilst immersed in VR. An early version was entered into an Oculus Mobile VR competition or something and recognized with a bronze award. But that was a concept demo, and now they've sort of fleshed it out and stuff. So interactive, basically a toolkit that you use in VR, and it sounds like what you create could be in many different places other than just a platform called VR.
So Mel,
yeah,
May the 4th also is a particular holiday now in our media society, as in May the 4th be with you. Have you come across that? So I'm wondering if we're...
I think I've vaguely heard that reference now and again. It's such an obvious one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm,
I mean, it's probably been gestating for 30 years.
Right.
One way or another. Yeah, I think I've heard it mentioned now and again.
I wonder if there's a tie-in.
Well, of course, there's, what we're on the third trilogy now, aren't we? Of the next generation, and Disney planning to do 1,000 more trilogies, until they melted dry, until they milk the fourth dry.
No doubt.
I mean the fourth dry. Or milk the idea. Who knows? But isn't this maybe the end of the Force anyway, or something?
Perhaps, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe May the fourth tune be with you.
There. That says it too.
Like that.
Yep.
Very good. Okay, well, maybe, this is not April the 1st, in which case I should never have read out the article in the first place. Right, yep, so that launches on May 4th, which I suspect is about Friday, isn't it? We're 29th, Monday. Yeah, well, it's end of this coming week anyway, one way or another. Right, Leap Motion, also another post from uploadvr.com. Leap Motion statement, really. AR and VR will have to make do with sound and vision. Cautionary item, this really, the thoughts of Leap Motion. Apparently, some of this Leap Motion headset, the North Star, no, not North Star, the headset thing has been, they've been reducing some of the facilities in it. But this Project North Star is like, it basically shows the idea of an augmented reality desk, where digital does slip into the real world. and you just use natural gestures to interface with them. But basically, the leap motion people are they're describing what they think are really going to be serious limitations on VR. That you're going to have sound and vision, and obviously elementary movements and stuff like that. But they think in the near future, at least, it's going to be limited to that. Sound and vision. You're not going to. I mean, it's. I think we're a long way. How many senses have we got? I mean, 5, I suppose, technically. We're not going to have taste. Well, actually, it may sound daft, but I mean, we have reported on interfacing ideas already involving taste and smell. Aromatherapy module that goes under your Oculus Rift and sticks up your nose, and they're developing a sort of smart candy that will feed you. You'll be able to eat your candy without actually having to use your hand to pick it up, because you can't see what you're doing when you're in VR. So you have a little device under your helmet that feeds the candy to you.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the taste component, we got the smell. And of course, the haptic devices give us touch. So I guess if you've got all 5 senses, you're kind of in there. But Leap Motion, who are after all involved with touch, actually reckon that it's probably really going to be mostly sound and vision for the time being. I think that's the gist of it anyway. Right, moving on. A new system could bring life-size holograms to a meeting near you. Now, this is kind of exciting, though having looked at the contraption involved, this is certainly not going to be in your sitting room or even your study. Well, maybe a study, I don't know. Queen's University in Canada have unveiled Telehuman 2, a system they're boasting as the first truly holographic video conferencing system designed to bring video conferences to life, pick up a subtle body language that's essential to communication. And talking of force-filled fun, you may remember Princess Leia as a hologram in Star Wars. The idea of being able to teleport oneself to another location has been the stuff of science fiction.
Mm-hmm. For a long time,
and anyway, a chap at Roll. Why do all these researchers have the most ridiculous names, especially for Canada? I can't pronounce his name. Anyway, it's a researcher. We are finally able to project people as well as objects as a hologram across the internet with a fidelity that, at least when it comes to angular accuracy, judgments cannot be distinguished from reality. No helmets or glasses are required, and without obscuring, they are doing it without obscuring parts of the face. System works by using an array of depth cameras to capture 3D objects on one end and a ring of smart projectors positioned around a cylindrical pod on the other end. Cameras capture an image from all angles and transmit them to projectors, which cast a dynamic hologram into the tube, creating something like the holodeck from Star Trek. Not Star Wars in this case, and the photograph indeed shows you the tube. And I must admit, if you know that Star Trek program, the beam me up, beam me down, Scotty business, this contraption really does look a bit like that. You are in this transparent cylinder, and apparently it needs this cylinder, occupying 3D space to project the hologram of you in it. But the idea is you stand in some similar kind of cylinder at one end of the planet, and the person you're meeting at the other end of the planet has a room with the cylinder in it too, and sees an accurate full-size photographic hologram of you. Interesting sort of stuff, but I'll leave you guys to explore more if any of this particularly interests you. Right, moving back. I'm going to take a quick diversion. James, are you a fan of a band called ABBA? Have you even heard of that, for that matter? I think James is muted. Probably his dog's in control of it.
Sorry, I'm having
a dog moment. Fair enough. I was going to say your dog's probably in charge of the mic at the moment.
Okay, he's clear. He's clear. What was the question? The band? Which band?
ABBA.
Oh, ABBA. Yes. Yeah. Fantastic.
ABBA.
Bernie and yeah.
No, I was doing a little bit of research and interview. Bit of sticking my online nose into their affairs yesterday. Yeah, well, next year, although it could be as late as 2020, ABBA are going on tour again. And they're sort of reforming, but they're not. But in fact, it was revealed the other day that they have reformed, kind of by accident. They actually all went back into the studio to work on something to do with the forthcoming tour, and they apparently walked in and it felt like yesterday, so they decided to sit down and record some new music. How nice. So they didn't intend to. They were in the studio for a completely different reason, which was, I think, to do with sampling old music for the new show. But the new show, so actually we have some new music, and one of them is going to premiere in December, and they're doing a television special to launch the tour. The tour, however, is very, very interesting for us folks, whether you're a fan of ABBA or not. And I used to hate them when I was young, but their music has endured, and I actually rather like them now. Tough. Whether you're a fan of their music or not, what they're attempting to do is really quite astonishing. I mean, this is going to be a tour that goes around the world, just like, a mega band goes on tour these days. There will be their band, or whatever their modern band musicians will be live with the tour. And you will actually see the band themselves, but they will only be live as holograms. But apparently they'll be live as both holograms and avatars. All I can think is that it means there'll be kind of photorealistic avatars in some of the projections and photorealistic holograms in the foreground in other projections. So they will, they're able to use holograms front of stage, but they'll use projected avatars to on the backstage bit, for actual distance stuff. But they're combining all this all together as a world tour show. So it'd be, for a few nights it'd be in one place on the planet, and then it'd be off to another place. So it'd be promoted just like a reformed ABBA tour. And the holograms and the avatars apparently are photorealistic renditions of the band the way they used to look. What is interesting, of course, is some of this documentary material shows them the way they look now, which is not quite the same, but actually they're not half bad. Well, presumably if they put any of the new music they're recording into it, they'll just mine to it as their old selves instead of new selves. So I really haven't a clue. But what it actually is absolutely fascinating to me to actually watch what they are doing, and of course realizing that this is not only is a tour like that major undertaking, but they're just arranging it all, and getting it all created is like 3 or 4 year project that they're already into, and it could be intriguing, if we look to the future of music, we think, if we can have a virtual social world that where we can, it's scalable and you can accommodate, a couple of 100,000 people in the audience, even if it's through sharding, and have real concerts on virtual stages. And you don't need to leave your home. What ABBA are doing clearly involves you leaving your home and going to a regular venue and probably paying an awful lot of money to get into it at the same time. But, actually following this through from a sort of stage experience rather than a home experience. So I'm going to be keeping my eyes on that and checking in on ABBA from time to time. Thought I would never say that, really. Right. Okay, moving on. Where am I? Oh, right. Globalcoinreport.com. This is it's all one word, globalcoinreport.com. This is sort of cryptocurrency kind of site. The latest popularity in cryptocurrency is still not wearing off, but instead seems to be getting more traction. And it's an article on why Decentraland and their virtual currency called Mana is so appealing. They spell mana wrong, as I have a newsletter from the Mana cryptocurrency. It's actually the Mana currency that Decentraland use is spelled MANNA. This article is spelling it as MANA, but it's obviously the same currency they're talking about. Um, the idea of the mana cryptocurrency is that some of the currency gets destroyed to increase its value somehow. But also they're a foundation, and the idea is they're kind of tied to the idea of universal income, and I mean, what they pay at the moment, if you get involved in this project, is probably something like 60 cents a week. So it's hardly a universal basic income, although it obviously does have value in the third world greater than it does in, say, Britain or America or Europe. Um, but it goes beyond that as a kind of currency. And this article, I think, is just interesting, especially if people are interested in blockchain in virtual worlds and stuff that, because this decentralized governance, is based an awful lot on the ownership of land. And of course, in the case of Decentraland, all the land is actually virtual land. It has its value according to this kind of system. And some people have already pointed out that some of the value of this virtual land is absurd, in terms of real world money already. And I don't profess to really understand how a lot of this cryptocurrency stuff works. I mean, we have people like Philip Rosedale who are great advocates of this, for something like hi-fi. We have people like Adam Frisby at ScienceBase who really don't think it is the right model at all for virtual worlds. So is it right for virtual worlds? We don't really know yet. But there's been, ever since Bitcoin's take off and Ethereum and all these others, there's actually been a lot of interest in this. But at the end of the day, whether things like this are workable are going to really depend on nations, real world nations cooperating with the system. And, that doesn't always happen. I was interested to read in the news this morning that a court in Russia, for example, have banned the communication app called Telegram. And I think that was about 2 or 3 days ago. And now, basically, the authorities in Russia have actually stepped in to take the app down. But they've managed to break Russia's internet in the process, which sort of goes to show that legislation doesn't always quite do the job. Wow. They're apparently they're having some difficulty getting rid of this app called Telegram from their system. Anyway, that's a side point, but I mean, to me, it exemplifies the fact that we look at virtual currencies, just look at Globits or the Linden dollar and things like that. Yeah, game currencies almost. They have a trading value against the US dollar, which is fair enough. You can cash in and cash out, but that is not the same as being an actual currency. You're a sub-currency of the dollar, because that is the real world currency that you're anchored against. And it seems to me that all these cryptocurrencies are going to end up having to be anchored to something which is still good old-fashioned, territorial currencies. So I'm cynical about that, but we shall see. And since I'm talking beyond my area of expertise, I'm going to shut up and go back to the list of other links. Right, uploadvr.com a couple of days ago, and this one is absolutely great. Mozilla Hubs turns your internet browser into a social VR experience. This was almost my pick of the week when it comes to news, because Mozilla Labs, of course, are the people behind the Mozilla, they're not called Mozilla anymore. What's it? Firefox web browser. Yep. But the labs are completely independent of that, and Mozilla Hubs are working just fine in my web browser. They are basically Right. Well, firstly, the article at uploadvr.com, which you can find from a couple of days ago, Mozilla Hubs turns your internet browser into a social VR experience. They prelude their article by talking about Altspace, Big Screen, VR Chat, Rec Rooms, Sword Art Online, Orbis VR. They're quoting everything from the under the sun, but basically, Mozilla debuted a couple of days ago now. Hubs, it's by Mozilla, it's called. It's an immersive social VR experience straight to the internet browser. Simply click on a web link to begin interacting with others. I did it, and that's exactly what happened. I clicked on a link to go to Hubs. Within microseconds, I was on a web page and in a room. It wanted a nickname from me and stuff like that. And it was ready to give me an URL for the room it had created so that I could send that URL to anybody else and they could come and meet me in that room. It was simplicity itself. Now, it wasn't, Second Life fashionistas will probably find no particular attraction in this world at the moment. You don't have an inventory, let alone elaborate stuff. But as a working mechanism for literally meeting somebody instantaneously in a virtual space, it just couldn't be easier. It's all web-based, and it's as fast as any web page you've ever seen. There is no... there are some wonderful worlds like Sciencebase have web clients and things now. There's, web portals, 3D web spaces. There's Cyber Lounge, and of course there's various other ones around. But they do tend to take a while to load. Not a fantastic amount, but you go to the page and you get your sort of login screen, and it takes a while to load. This was just instantaneous. Blink your eyelid and you missed the fact you'd even moved. Well, it looked different, obviously. Anyway, the whole thing is called Firefox Reality, but as I say, I used my Opera viewer. Apparently, it was perfectly in Chrome. I presume it therefore works in pretty much any other browser. I wouldn't bank on it working on Internet Explorer, but that's a different matter. And it uses web VR to power the hubs, so you launch a room with a single click. It reminds people of a VR version of an old school AOL chat room. All you need is the URL, and you can share that hub with other users without the need for an app store or download of any kind. And although it's desktop-based at the moment, it aims to support all headsets too, including Rift, Vive, Daydream, or even Google Cardboard. Thinking about the possibilities with the impending launch of Oculus Go are quite dizzying. Well, that's Upload VR's opinion. Anyway, read all about that, or more to the point, actually, just follow the darn link in the article, and, within microseconds, you're going to be in a web-based virtual room, and you can get an URL. And if you know me, you can IM me the URL, and I might even be able to come and meet you on the web. But I won't look quite like the one I do at the moment. But anyway, the one you're looking at now doesn't look like a normal one anyway, so what the hell. One day we'll get a universal avatar as well. Right, moving on. RoadToVR.com also have a post on exactly the same thing. Mozilla's Hubs is a one-click VR meeting space I've been waiting for. A slightly different take on this in terms of a review, so I posted both. You've got the choice of uploadvr.com's report or more opinion-based at roadtovr.com. Right, Disney, don't think. This is a post, interestingly enough, at WashingtonPost.com. I'm sure most of you have heard of the Washington Post. They've been around since Watergate, in fact. That's, I guess, when I first heard of them. Right, Disney unveils a prototype virtual reality jacket to simulate hugs, punches, and a snake slithering across your body. Oh, please. Interesting place to find this post, actually, but it is quite true. Disney themselves have decided to get into the act with the peripherals, and in fact, I suppose you could call it clothing. Basically, it's a jacket and full of sensors and all sorts of things. A big green snake slithers up your body, squeezing your rib cage, but you're not afraid. In fact, it's strangely exhilarating because it's virtual reality with simulation. The snake isn't real, but the feeling in your chest is. I hope this jacket is safe. I wouldn't want to get strangled by a piece of my own clothing. In, in addition to seeing that snake through a virtual reality headset strapped to your face, you're wearing a jacket filled with airbags that mimic the pressure and vibrations of a serpent moving across your body. The jacket is meant to give a heightened sensation that goes beyond playing the video game or watching the movie. Anyway, it's been developed by Disney to take the VR experience to another level at a time when adoption rate has been slow. Interesting, they should point that out. Connected to computer software that controls a series of inflatable components, the jacket can reproduce a variety of sensations, adding new kinds of perception and depth to VR. And well, actually, I've got to admit, I'm not going to read this whole article. You can go and check it out. It's near the end. It's quite interesting. They point out that VR also faces a crucial marketing dilemma. It's a bit like advertising color television on black and white TV. The existing media can't quite convey the experience to full effect. They're looking at the whole gamut there. I mean, I can actually see myself possibly wearing a jacket like this. It wouldn't be as invasive, I think, as a headset. And I think it will be a stimulus thing rather than, and it doesn't seem to me there's anything really interactive about it. It's really just sort of haptic outwards as opposed to offering any kind of control. But just as people who go on virtual reality rides and things tend to get in seats and get in cubicles that, they're like anti-gravity aeroplane experiences, some of them, aren't they? They tilt, you have to strap in so you can go upside down and go on a upside down flight and stuff. There are plenty of devices that actually make you feel like you're in virtual reality, even though they're just a one-way avenue to feed experiences to you. I could see a jacket like this working with television. If you're on a roller coaster ride whilst you're watching a 2D screen, and you want to create the illusion of speed, in an open vehicle or something of the wind and the air pressure pushing against your stomach. They could easily use this to, enhance your appreciation of a movie on TV or something. So interesting. I won't say interface device. It's a sort of outer-face device, really.
Did the article make any reference to Ready Player One? A pressure suit was a big, took up some screen time in the movie.
Oh, I haven't actually seen the movie version. Yeah. I've read the book, but not the... good point. It doesn't seem to have the paper on this from Disney came out Wednesday. No, it's more like 26 inflatable compartments.
Okay.
It tends to be feel effects. Sensations are created by modifying speed, force, and duration of inflating and deflating airbags. Pressure, and no mention of Ready Player One at all, actually. Although, as I said, they do mention the take up of VR based on headsets alone is maybe not quite as big as people are expecting, which is no surprise to me at all. But, yes. Cool. So good stuff. Now, another. I've got a feeling this is the last post from this group. Okay. This is a link to a great site. I very rarely have cause to link to it on this show, but it's Kurzweil's Accelerating Intelligence site, Ray Kurzweil's blog, basically. And he has had a post on holodeck-style holograms could revolutionize video conferencing. He has actually picked up on the one I mentioned earlier, which has the tube device for... you get in a tube and it senses you and teleports a replica of you to somewhere else. But it does go into it a little bit more. And it also he also covers the thing about the smart wall that I mentioned earlier. and a smartwatch screen on your skin, which is something called Lumia Watch. So he's he's taken sort of 3 instances of 3 radical new user interfaces and done a post which mentions all 3 of those particular ones. Right, so that's it for the Melbourne's feed in terms of highlights I picked out there. Now, as I said, we also have a feed for Metaworld News, which is twitter.com/Metaworld News. And there are a few things in here this week, although I suspect a lot of them will turn out to be duplicates of what I've already mentioned. Yeah, about a week ago, Ember posted at hgsafari.blogspot.com the open space safari. That would have been a roundup of last week's safari. Multi-passenger airplanes arrive on DigiWorlds. Yes, DigiWorlds is a hypergrid-enabled grid, and this is based at hypergridbusiness.com. Planes have been in virtuality for quite a long while. The only real problem is the mechanics of keeping multiple passengers on. Basically, it usually works as long as nobody is stupid enough to stand up and fall through the plane to the ground, because they're no longer anchored to their chair. But also, of course, space. In early virtual worlds like Second Life, for example, a simulator only went like 512 meters or maybe even less, I forget. When you got to the edge of a region, the plane might get across to the next region, but the passengers fell out while it was crossing. Whereas an open simulator, of which DigiWorlds is part, so to speak, you can have pretty vast regions where you can actually have an airplane with lots of passengers in it flying a fairly fair distance. So interesting that Hypergrid Business have chose to highlight that, but and it's always fun to fly around, isn't it? Although when you consider your avatar can fly in virtual worlds, you maybe wonder why. Okay, and also from this is an example of my feed getting itself in the wrong order. Right. Thank you, Flipboard, getting your knickers in a twist, as we say. Right. Social VR platforms making changes to comply with the GDPR. GDPR is European legislation that comes into effect about mid-month, mid-month meaning the May that's coming up in a day or two. And this is actually posted nwn.blogs.com, which is Hamlet Orr's New World Notes blog, which used to be focused solely on Second Life, but is sort of moving out its remit a little bit these days. And basically, Hamlet is talking to both Philip Rosedale and Adam Frisby at Sciencespace, 2 different platforms. We've got High Fidelity and Sciencespace. Both of whom are very supportive of the European Union's new data privacy regulations and elaborating on what they're doing to comply with them. It seems most of the world is having to find a way to comply with them anyway, because even it's very unusual in a world-connected web that some kind of communication between sites does not cross the part of Europe. It's just simple. You can't just say, oh, well, our servers and our services in America. If, to get to Australia, they might have to hop to, a portal in Europe. Just by passing through Europe, they're liable for the regulations that apply in Europe, even though it might just be a waypoint, if you see what I mean. So it needs to be taken quite seriously, and it will affect the way things like virtual worlds can hold data on you, the kind of data they can keep, etc., etc. Right. Okay, there was an update from VR chat, but it's of not great importance. Right. Here we are. How weird is this? Okay. I'm going to talk about a bit about this anyway. A website called RyanSchultz.com, which is actually a blog called Ryan Schultz. RYANSCHULTZ.com. Now, this first post relates to something I'm going to come to in a bit. It's a first look at the creator toolset in Virtual Universe. And let me see. Actually, it's a very short post at this one, but never mind. That site is a site I do want you to go to anyway. I'm going to move forward a bit here. Not backward, forward, please. There we go. On to page 1. Right, Neos VR we covered already. The Mozilla hubs I covered already. Right. Endgame, which is a TV discussion program, which I rather like. It's fairly presentable. It's actually filmed in VR chat, but without all the horrible name tags and stuff that some people there seem to like. It's especially a discussion show, and they had they had one midweek, which I do believe is now posted at probably YouTube. Unlocking disability with virtual reality. This has always been very big in Second Life and to a certain extent in OpenSim and other virtual worlds too. Not only in the sense that virtual worlds offer facilitation to people with less abilities sometimes, but there tend to be movements, focusing on that. I'm going to have to move back again there. There's nothing much to show you there except the link to the video. Okay, earning money creating custom avatars in VR chat, an interview with Ghoster. This again is a post from the RyanSchultz.com I mentioned a second ago. Although VR chat does not have an in-game economy yet, there are many people earning hundreds and thousands of dollars by designing and creating custom avatars that you can use in places like that. So he's having a look at people making money from creating custom avatars for use in VR chat and elsewhere, I guess. Again, another post from Ryan. Intellectual property and copyright issues in social VR spaces and virtual worlds. This, again, is an overview post. I mean, Ryan seems to write fairly short blogs, but sort of condensed overviews of, stuff going on. In this particular one, he got in touch with somebody called Ghoster. That's an avatar name, obviously, from VRC Traders, which is seems to be a traders group based on virtual reality traders coming out of VR chat. VRC is VR chat traders. Troubled about copyright and IP issues involved in selling those same avatars we mentioned a second ago. So having a look at the copyright status and stuff like that there. And we have more from him. Yes, here we are. I think we have 2 more from him, but here's the first one, which was for earlier today. It's an exclusive video, a guided tour of the virtual universe with Jeroen van den Bosch. Now, I was unable to, legally, shall I say, grab the video from this site to post elsewhere on my feeds. So you do actually have to go to Ryan's article to watch the video he has here. He basically went on a 30-minute tour of a world called Virtual Universe with their main developer. And the developers themselves filmed themselves giving him his tour. So this wasn't the film he actually made himself. It's sort of the film he's the star of, though, if you see what I mean. But not only a great, interesting talk over the course of 30 minutes, but the stuff demoed in this video is just a joy to watch. Very realistically looking mesh landscape and stuff, and fairly photorealistic looking skyboxes around them. but what's in the world, which at first sight, when you look at the video, you think, am I going to hang on for 30 minutes for this? And believe me, you want to. You really want to, because it moves along. They go to a demo world, which is like a sort of Grand Canyon, but absolutely huge, with some of the most realistic virtual water you've ever seen, and land areas around the water, you know, which then move into the canyon, and then there's a sort of photosphere type thing beyond that, which is just there for looks. But what's remarkable is the foliage and things like the critters and stuff, that when you go in depth and start walking around, you begin to see them. And all the wildlife in this virtual world is imbued with its own individual AI. And the AIs have got minds of their own. The rabbits, which really look like rabbits, run a mile whenever you come close to them, unless you pick up a bit of food and throw it at them, in which case they don't come at you, but when you walk away, they go and get the food. Although occasionally a bird, which also has its own eye, will beat them to the food. It will just swoop down and grab the food before the rabbits can get to it. But they react to your presence, usually in terms of running away from you, but they react to everything is real time and momentary, so it's not like anything is an animated loop, or anybody can predict what's going to happen beforehand. And there were some really little touches, like if you wander around by a rock, you'll find a sort of an ancient skull. You know, it's just a skull, a bone, a skeleton, which is just lying there looking suitably spooky, as you might expect in corner of a virtual world somewhere. But if you look closely, there are insects like flies, rummaging around on the skull, almost as if there's a residue of meat or something for them to still eat on it. And again, all these insects have their own AIs attached to them. So, the birds you can see fly around all over the place, big birds, smaller birds, whatever. The rabbits you see when you walk towards them and you're in the near vicinity, and they scamper when you arrive. But the insects, they're just a touch that you really don't see unless you pan right into, what's on the ground and realize there's flies, exploring the crevices of this old skull and things like that. And the way they behave is just, they look photorealistic, but also the way they behave is just so totally, freeform. It's the only real world I can come up with. You can't, there's no sense of any activity loop or anything like that going on. So I was fascinated with that, and lots of other effects you actually see in the video, like they get on the hoverboards to actually travel over the water from one side to the other, and the effect of the hoverboard on the water and the ripples it creates on the water, again, so realistic, way beyond the kind of realism we've even seen in some of the new, headline mesh worlds. But there is one snag, as Ryan himself found out in this video. As I said, it's fascinating to just listen to everything. It's virtuality kit time. And this world really only works if you're in what's called room scale VR. In other words, you've got a headset and it may be wired, but you've got a big enough room to move around in. Ryan apparently had a headset on, the virtuality kit, but he was like sitting at a desk and he could stand up, but he didn't have enough room to move without really bumping into things. And this world required that he actually had space to move, to actually do things. For example, he went to a creator site and he actually got out a, I think it was a rabbit or something, that he wanted to populate his sort of, you can get an area to make your own kind of thing. And he wanted to drag a rabbit into it, and he couldn't get the rabbit out of the inventory until he was told, no, you don't just touch it, you've got to clasp your hand to pick it up. And then you've got to pull it out of the inventory and put it where you want it. And of course, Ryan just threw it somewhere. And the developer said, it just went flying into the distance and hit some rocks. poor rabbit, before it res. And I think it was the developer's voice came in. I said, I don't think it's meant to. Didn't realise it could do that. You're not meant to throw rabbits around a mile away. Anyway, it was most amusing, but I was most impressed by this. But of course, I keep thinking, well, I would love a 2D world that I could inhabit with these critters and their AIs and everything else, and a 3D world, but something I can view on the screen the way I was watching this video. And you can't. Apparently, it's unless you've got room scale VR. This is a requirement really for the world. And the funniest thing is the ease with which they've made everything usable. The little tool set where you can get at inventory items to res them, as I was saying, stuff like that. Very intuitive and easy, but you need that 3D touch because you have to spin a carousel, for example, and to get into the toolbox, you've got a toolbox. You've got to spin the carousel around to the bit you want, and then go to the level you want to get to the animal's bit, or all the possibilities you have. And you can't do that. You could probably do it with a touch screen. I don't know. It'd be very difficult to do it with a mouse for example, and keyboard. So it really does sound like it needs the whole shebang there. But if something like that could be ported back, as it were, to something that works on a 2D screen, I would be in seventh heaven playing around in that for a while. Anyway, let me move on, because that is called Virtual Universe, basically. And that seems to be the end of it. I did actually have another post about that particular world, but it's probably simply on another feed. I will quickly hop over here to where it says my posts. This is Google Plus, basically, and just checking. Now the only thing here is there was an article at medium.com during the week by Leighton Marjoram, basically a review of the Avatar Fashion and Accessories Expo, which is currently happening at Tangle Grid. Tangle Grid is a virtual reality social world grid run on an open simulator and accessible by itself, or indeed via the hypergrid. Just look up Tangle Grid. They're quite a big grid, and they actually have an expo region, which is what you want. I think it's just called Tangle Expo or something. And it changes every month or two. It's basically an expo region which is open to the whole hypergrid, and they have expos on various themes that cover the whole hypergrid. They change every couple of months. Okay, so that is that. Now, the only question is, what have I forgotten? I think I'm at the end of everything finally. This feels like it's been a long show. James, anything caught your eye there? Or?
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of good stuff. And we've talked in times past about, putting things in front of our eyes and sounds before our ears and pressure before our nerves. And, I think probably one of the greatest immersive experiences is when we get wired directly into the brain.
Yes.
And so kit will become irrelevant to just getting the virtual experience directly. But it's an interesting time to watch it all develop, be experimented with, and so on. The virtual universe sounds very interesting. I'm looking forward to checking that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the VR techie sort of people were looking forward to the launch of Oculus's Go. Where basically it sounds like it's slightly lower res than what you're used to with Oculus, but it's completely wireless. So the processor, the vision, everything is in the headset. You don't need to connect it to a computer.
Right.
Which would, if you had a big enough space to wander around in, would make that virtual universe quite interesting. But the other thing, it wasn't on today's. I guess it must have been. It feels more recent, but I guess it was something we probably covered last week. There was a company that are developing. It's not the computer brain interface. In fact, I know it was. We talked about it last week. I'm sure. It's something you wear, I think, on your wrist or your arm, or maybe on your ankles and stuff like that. And it registers signals that the brain sends, to interact with the world. But your brain doesn't tell the world what to do. The brain sends instructions that it normally would to parts of your body, and these are picked up by sensors in those parts of the body, and then those actions of those parts of the body are then synchronized to the avatar in the virtual world.
Yeah.
So it's not like a connection where the brain is telling the avatar directly to move its arm up. It's actually the brain tells you to move your own arm up, but the sensors in your own arm make the avatar's arm move too. So it's a sort of, it's already kind of like a middle ground between the idea of that direct brain interface.
Right. But if I'm known for one statement, it would be the best kid is no kid.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's what they used to say, when they first started talking about the Internet of Things.
That's right.
IoT or whatever now. The idea is, and computing in general, computing interfaces, it won't be right till it's not there, except it is there, if you see what I mean.
Yep.
Which, well, I think there's a great deal of truth in that. Of course, if it's not there, or if it's no longer something you're aware of, you're also not going to be aware of who's controlling it, or you, or what they're doing. Swings and roundabouts, I think. But, yeah, something that's intuitive and natural. It's just, it's like a ghost realm, that surrounds the planet, sort of vapor in the air where you just communicate and interact with it without thinking.
That's right. Yep.
Exactly. A matrix of electronic signals circulating through the planet invisibly. Yes, we dream on. I'll be dead before that happens, I think.
You never know. It goes fast.
You never know. It does accelerate.
You referred to the Kurzweil blog, and Mr. Kurzweil he's telling us, not many years for some major advances.
Yeah. And and he's got a few years on him himself. So yes, keeping on track.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe we're all in denial, and we're racing to a technological future where we can just upload ourselves before we pop it.
Yep.
Why not?
Why not?
If it happens, why not?
Yep.
Just I hope the server keeps running to keep me immortal.
No blue screen.
Like immortal me suddenly gets blue screened as the server crashes and I'm lost to the eternity forever.
That's right.
There's not even a literary expression for this, is there?
I don't think so.
I am lost to eternity forever? What does that mean?
I guess it's understood that that's already the case.
Yeah, it would be until I can be uploaded, if you see what I mean.
Right,
but then it's down to the server, and anyway, somebody will need the server, and it doesn't really matter anyway. Who cares? Okay, fair enough. I think that's it for us then, isn't it? Yeah,
it is a long show. We're an hour and 3 minutes. So.
Are we indeed? Oh, well, it makes up for the fact we haven't got a chat show to follow. Well, if we did have a chat show today, we'd have had to have been off air and on it by now. Yep. Right, okay. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope the news has been useful. Hope the discourse that surrounded the news from us has been a bit useful as well. So, thanks for watching, and thank you from me, Mal Burns, and thank you from him, which is James Outloud. And we've got to get this sign-out routine sorted, but it's not happening this week. Okay, we will see you same time, same place again next week. And have a good week. Bye for now.